Cabinet has approved various short to long-term measures to ensure that the production capacity of industries that will be affected by a new raft of US tariffs is maintained and save an estimated 30,000 jobs. The 30% levies slapped on South African products that are going into America will affect the agriculture and automotive sectors in particular. They're scheduled to kick in the next few hours. Other countries affected by the measures introduced by the Trump administration are already having to pay more to get their products into the US market. So Minister in the Presidency, Khumbudzo Ntshavheni, held a briefing in Pretoria today after a cabinet meeting where she spoke about these interventions that government has got in mind. They include the establishment of an export support desk to help affected companies to absorb the impact of these tariffs, as well as facilitate resilience and growth strategies. Let's take this issue further with international relations expert Dr. Phiwokuhle Mnyandu. Doctor, we're grateful for your time, and you're joining us from the United States this evening. Before we go anywhere, are you able to give us a sense perhaps of how the start of this raft of tariffs is going down in the US, both in the media and among the local population?
Well, everyone knew, it's good to be with you, Thembekile, and your viewers. Hello. Everyone knew in the United States that this was kind of a pro forma application of these tariffs. Coming in the genesis, January 20th, President Trump had made it clear when he signed that EO executive order that basically said the United States is concerned with its trade deficits and would like to find ways by which it can assuage the effects on American employment numbers. Then April 1st, they started the date that by July 31st, if a country has not initiated, undertaken, or concluded a trade deal with the United States, then there would be a base 10% tariffs, and then other countries, which South Africa is amongst them, would have higher tariffs. So South Africa ends up with 30%, others end up with 50, and so on and so forth. So the American public, kind of, whether they agree with it or not, they knew this was coming. And they knew the context, the local political context in which they take place.
And it's an interesting dynamic, isn't it? Because Donald Trump, even taking to social media as the tariffs kicked in midnight US time, which would have been 6 a.m. our time, in fact, was talking about how billions of rands or dollars were coming towards the US, being injected into the economy. But he's done something quite interesting where he's mixed issues that he's got in geopolitics or the foreign policy of multiple nations into some of the conversation here. You look at South Africa, he's taken exception, or at least the American government has taken exception to South Africa taking Israel to the ICJ on a case of genocide. In the last 24 hours, we saw him punish India for buying oil from Russia. That's to do with the Russian invasion of Ukraine. So is it really about the bottom line?
Yes, you are quite correct, Thembekile. Indeed, if you look at Thailand and Cambodia, if you look at their tariffs, they cohere to American expectations that they conclude the war that is currently going on there, or the small skirmishes. If you look at Brazil as well, if I may add to your example, how Bolsonaro, who's a good friend of the president, has been treated. And subsequent to some of these political noise that takes place in various countries, many of these makers in the United States are seeking to carve out a way, a niche for America to be able to have a modicum of power in being able to determine some of the things that it feels like, some of the things in the global economic system that it feels like it has kind of lost grip over. So you saw that in July, at the beginning of July, when there was also a 10% promise that if you are a BRICS country and you are involved in you'd be involved in this BRICS currency, which the American government takes a dim view of because it challenges the preeminence of the dollar as a reserve currency. So if you look at it, then if you take this in its face value, South Africa's tariffs are actually 20%, and the other 10 is because it's in the BRICS country. So South Africa is in the middle of a huge geostrategic skirmish. You are quite right, Thembekile.
And in that geopolitical skirmish, we rightly focus because this affects local businesses on the US and how it's had Pretoria and its crosshairs. But when you look at Trump and his dislike for the BRICS formation as a whole and the concept of de-dollarization, decentralizing the dollar as the international means of majority of trade, he has in the case of India, put more sanctions on their products than what we will have to pay to get ours into Washington, does that then leave room for Pretoria to still find a workaround, a sweetener that they can give to him to spare local businesses?
There is always room in diplomacy and statecraft, Thembekile. In fact, the onus is on Pretoria right now. I think South Africa missed a golden opportunity. It was one of the first countries to be allowed to come for a visit in May. And between May and July, when these 10% BRICS tariffs kicked in, there was an opportunity there for South Africa to kind of present some of its cards and what it wishes to kind of like, if there are any compromises to be made in these geostrategic skirmishes that South Africa finds itself embroiled in. South Africa would have actually best made its case then. It would also help, I would say, if South Africa could get its business together with getting an ambassador to the United States, and instead of having, for example, a political appointee, have a career ambassador. If you look at China, Japan, India, their ambassadors in Washington are people who have no less than 20 years experience in the Western Hemisphere. So these are people who know how the American system works, how the politics, how the Senate Foreign Affairs Committee works, and they're quite fluid in how they're able to help their countries navigate this presidency. And South Africa should have done that as well.
The South African government confirming today, in fact, that a conversation has been had in the last few hours between President Ramaphosa and President Trump as far as a glimmer of hope goes for a lower tariff. Is that enough to build on? Is that reason to remain optimistic?
It is, Thembekile. In fact, your viewers at home may be surprised to know that no one actually that is serious in Washington would like relations between America and the United States, America and South Africa to go kaput. In fact, so we must all disabuse ourselves, I think, of the notion that South Africa can replace the United States with something else for two reasons. One, whoever you are replacing the United States with, you already have lost the bargaining chips because they know you are desperate. Two, it breaks good faith in what you are supposed to be building here in Washington. So the hard work remains to be done. I'm confident that South Africa will find a headway because it might surprise people. No one wants these relations to go down, but it is a tactic. You are dealing with a chief negotiating president who has written books about negotiating, how you must bluff, how you must walk away, how you must take time, and so on and so forth. So there's an equal opportunity here for other countries, and South Africa can take advantage of this.
Are we on the cusp then, Dr. Mnyandu, of a complete reshape or reset of global trade in the way that we've known it in decades past?
Yes. Because American voters who put Donald Trump, they feel robbed. People who used to be able to buy houses at 28 now cannot afford them until they're 41 years old. They feel like they have kind of been relegated to a third world country status, and they do not like this. So the extent to which this president can reshape the global order, and tariffs here being the big stick. They talk about walking lightly and carrying a big stick. Well, he walks heavily and carries a big stick. So to the extent that this is for the American people and they are trying to extract as much benefit that they feel like they've lost to China, to Vietnam, and so on and so forth, is the extent to which this remake of global trade is going to take place. But it need not be disruptive.
Right. Good to talk to you, international relations expert Dr. Phiwokuhle Mnyandu, talking to us from the United States this evening.